Well, in the last video I did on this thing, I pretty much determined that that engine there is junk. So, I think today we're going to head out back to the mower pile and see if we can't find a replacement engine for this thing. And take the truck, and I suppose I'll take them one mower and one snowblower out of the back. The mower runs, but it's got a bent crankshaft, and the snowblower I think is junk. So we'll load up, go back, and see if we can't find ourselves an engine for this thing. Alright, let's head out to the mower pile. And yeah, I dug them two out. It wasn't easy, they were still kind of buried in the snowbank, but I got them out. I didn't end up filming it. I had to do quite a bit of digging. There's still some snow back here, but I think we should be able to get to some stuff. Alright, let's look around and see what we got. Alright, let's see what we got here. That engine there, that one runs, but I think it might be a little big to fit in that tractor, kind of wide. This engine's junk. This engine here runs, so that's a possibility. That engine there would be perfect, except I think this one had a big hole in the side of it, so yeah, that engine's no good either. So that's not going to work. And I think all these engines are dead, except for this one. Let's see what's got in it. Yeah, it looks promising. Looks kind of like that red one over there. And that's the same style that's in the zero turn already, so this might be perfect. No, I haven't actually run this one, but the guy said it was a good runner until the rear end went out of it, and then he decided to go in there and try to fix it. So I think we should probably clear this thing off and clear a path and see if we can drag it out of here and get it running, because I think this might be the winner. Well, I got it pulled out a little bit so we can at least open the hood, and it sure does look a lot like the one that's in it. Might have to change a few things around, but overall I think I'll be able to make this thing work. So I suppose clear a path, and we can drag it out with the truck, and we'll get it back to the shop and see if we can actually fire it up. It's kind of sitting at an angle, but it does have oil in it, so I think this might be a winner. Well, alright, we got it out of there and we got her all strapped up to the truck. So let's see if we can't pull her back to the house. See if that thing will run. Yeah, it seems to be pulling all right. Hopefully it'll stay on. Hopefully I don't roll it over. That probably wouldn't be good. Oh yeah. Riding right along. No problem. And I got it chained up close enough it shouldn't snag on anything. So. Assuming I don't get stuck. Oh yeah. No problem. Alright, Alright, well, we got it back here in one piece, so I think first things first, I'm going to go ahead and drop this carb bowl and just see what kind of crap's in it, because if there's jello in it, I don't want to suck that up into the carburetor, and then I got to take the whole thing apart. So take that off, look at the bowl, clean it out if it needs it, and then put it back on and see if we can't get it to crank. Alright, I went ahead and I took the bowl off, and it was actually surprisingly clean for having been sitting for 2 or 3 years, probably at least, maybe more. So I put that back on. Also took the shroud off because there was a nice little rat's nest in there, and luckily they didn't chew through any of the wires, so we're good on that. And threw a battery in. I also cut the wires for the seat switch, so we don't need that. And there was no linkage on the bottom to run the brake switch, so I'm just going to have to do that manually, and we should be able to crank it over, put a little carb spray in there, or starting fluid, whatever, and see if this thing will fire. I don't think it'll run. The gas is ancient, but maybe it will. Let's give her a try. Well, it fired. It'll probably run. I don't know if it'll run on that ancient gas, but give her a shot anyway. There. Well, it wants to fire. Dump some gas in there, some fresh stuff. See what that does. Well, it sounds pretty good. I don't think the gas that's in the tank is going to actually get it to run, but let's go ahead and yank this thing out. Well, that part was pretty simple. I got the clutch off and the 4 bolts that hold the motor in out of the way. 5 if you include that one. So now the whole thing's loose, and yeah, that thing comes in handy. It'll lift. So now I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and take the stuff off the top here, and I'm going to remove this exhaust since we won't be using this style anyway. And then we should just be able to pluck this right off of here and get rid of the rest of this hulk. And just like that, the engine is out. And I don't think I need this frame for anything. I don't need any more parts off it, so I can go ahead and push that sucker outside. And then I'll drag this one over here to my hoist and pick it up, take all the belts and the clutch off the bottom there, and the 4 bolts that hold that engine in, and we should be ready to swap. Alright, I've got the engine unbolted from the bottom. I've got the clutch out of it. Took the exhaust off too to get to one of the bolts, and it's a little bit different. That one had just bolts running up through the bottom, bolting directly to the engine. This one's got them coming all the way through with nuts on top, which is no big deal, but there's a bracket on one of them and ground, so I'll have to keep that in mind. Alright, we got the old engine out, and I went ahead and I pressure washed off the heavy parts of grease there. I got most of it, but it's still kind of dirty everywhere, but at least this is pretty clean. And I've been looking at these 2 motors, and they're pretty much the same thing. The throttle and choke. All that works the same, hooks up the same, so I don't have to do anything there. The wiring is the same, it just uses a different plug here. So what I think I can do is, yeah, I can unplug it here, and then I'll have to take the plug off the other motor and put on those two wires, and then we should be good to go with that. And the other difference is, this one here has a fuel pump, and that one doesn't have it, but that doesn't really change anything. Should work the same anyway. And this one has an oil filter, which this one does not. Never did. I wonder why it blew up. But yeah, I'm thinking, I haven't looked at the shafts, but I'm going to just assume they're the same for now. So let's get this thing in here and start putting it back together. Alright, the new engine is bolted in, all the holes lined up, which was awesome, because there's a bracket down here. I don't know how well you're going to see it, but there's a bracket that goes across, and it mounts to both the engine bolts, and it's the spring tensioner for this hydro. And I went ahead and put that on, and the belt for the other hydro I put on, and of course the belt adapter here, or the pulley, and the shafts were identical, so that slid right up into place. And now I just got to put the clutch back on, plug it back in, and we should be buttoned up on the bottom, and then I can lower it down and hook up the fuel line, the throttle cable, and mess with a little bit of wiring, and then she should be good to go. Oh, I gotta put the exhaust back on, but that's another story. Alright, well, it's been a couple of days since I worked on this, but I got a few things done. I'm not sure where I left off, I don't remember, but I got the throttle cable hooked up, so that works. I got the fuel line back on, and I got the wiring done. All I had to do was take the terminals out of that other plug and then put this plug on there. The terminals were the same, so I didn't have to cut any wires, and that should work. Now I've got to blow out all that grass there, and I can put the cover back on. But before I put the cover back on, I need to weld my exhaust. When I got this mower, that whole pipe was broken off, and I just did a quick goober weld on top, and I never did the backside because I couldn't really get to it. So I'll have to clean that up and just stitch it a bit, and then I can bolt this back on, put the cover back on, and it should be good to mow. In Germany they call me Gooberwelder. Yeah. But it'll keep most of the gas in there, I don't really care. So that's stuck back together. Now we can bolt her up after it cools off. We got all the crappy grass blowing out of there. And once I get this on, we can throw the cover on and we should be able to fire it up. Alright, everything's back together and hooked up. I even put a little bit of oil in it. So we should be ready to fire. I'm probably going to have to spray some carb spray in there to see if it'll go, because I'm sure it's got a bunch of old gas in the carb and in the lines from the fuel pump. But until it gets fresh, I may have to spray it. But I think it'll fire, so let's give her a shot. I think we need more juice. Alright, I've had it on the charger for about an hour. Let's see if it'll fire. I'd say that runs. Alright, the transplant is complete. We've got 4.5 extra horsepower and an oil filter. Woohoo! Now I don't know if the cam is kind of screwy in that and the compression release doesn't work, or I'm assuming it has one, but or if my battery's just dead because it likes to do that. Well, that could be my battery is just junk, but who knows. Worst case, I can just jump it every time and it'll fire up. So it works. It'll cut grass for another year.